Your challenge isn't discernment, it's discipline. Hi, welcome to Real Life Reflections with Ishi, where I share real experiences, real growth, and real faith. Today, we're talking about something that a lot of us don't like to admit. Sometimes the issue isn't that we don't know what to do, it's that we struggle to follow through on what we already know. There comes a point when life stops being about us trying to figure things out and becomes more about what we are willing to act on. Because if we're honest, many of us are not lacking discernment. We can already sense when something isn't right, when something is out of alignment. We can already feel when God is nudging us in a different direction. We've had those moments, the quiet conviction, the inner knowing, that small voice that says, this is not it. And yet we delay, we hesitate, we overthink, we wait. Not because we don't know, but because following through requires discipline. Discernment reveals and discipline responds. Discernment helps us to recognize truth. Discipline helps us to live it. And the gap between the two, that's where many of us get stuck. Because it's easier to keep seeking clarity than it is to act on conviction. It's easier to say, I'm still praying about it, than to admit, I already know what to do. Scripture tells us in James chapter 1, verse 22, that we should be doers of the word and not only hearers, because if we're only hearers, we are deceiving our own selves. Knowing the truth is not enough. Recognizing truth is not enough. At some point, truth has to become action. Discipline doesn't always show up in big dramatic decisions. It shows up sometimes in quiet everyday moments where we choose what aligns instead of what's comfortable, where we follow through instead of putting things off, where we choose growth over familiarity, where we choose obedience over convenience. Discipline is subtle, it's intentional, and sometimes it's uncomfortable. Galatians 6 verse 9 tells us that we shouldn't be weary in well-doing, because in due season we will reap the harvest if we faint not. Discipline is what keeps us going even when we don't see immediate results. Sometimes we delay because we're afraid of change. We're attached to what's familiar. We're waiting to feel ready or hoping for more confirmation. But readiness is not always required for obedience. Sometimes obedience comes first and then clarity follows. Proverbs 3 verses 5 and 6 reminds us that we should trust in the Lord with all our heart and that we should not lean on our own understanding. It says that we should acknowledge God in all our ways and He will direct our paths. Sometimes we keep waiting to fully understand when God is simply asking us to trust Him. So ask yourself, what do I already know that I've been avoiding? Where have I been seeking more confirmation instead of taking action? What would it look like for me to follow through right now? Where is God calling me to be more disciplined? A lot of us are waiting for God to make a move so that we can make a decision. But sometimes God is waiting on us to make a decision so that He can move. So maybe you're not stuck because you don't know. Maybe you're not stuck because you need more clarity. Maybe you're stuck because you haven't moved. And maybe growth for you in this season isn't about gaining more clarity. Maybe it's about choosing consistency. Because complete understanding is not a prerequisite for obedience to God. You don't always need to see the full picture to take the next step. Sometimes you just need to trust Him enough to move. Thank you for joining me today. I hope this blesses you as much as it has blessed me. If this spoke to you, share it with someone you care about. I'll see you in the next reflection.